How's it going, everybody? Flamesy here, and today, well, I got an email from YouTube that Alvin Schwartz, that name should sound familiar, because he wrote the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark series, and I've been a fan of these. I mean, I've reread all three of the books, like, and not millions, but freaking tons of times, and they were actually pretty good. They had some good stories on them. So I decided that well, not I, but that I took up YouTube's offer. So, yeah, let's get into scary stories to tell in the dark. Now, I picked a story that I really liked out of this book, and let's read it. A wealthy man wanted to go hunting, and then in a part of northern Canada where few people had ever hunted. He traveled to trading post to trading post and tried to find a guide to take him, but no one would. It was too dangerous, they said. Finally, he found an Indian who needed money badly, and he agreed to take him. The Indian's name was Defago. They made camp in the snow near a large frozen lake. For 3 days they hunted, but they had nothing to show for it. The third night, a windstorm came up. They They lay in their tent listening to the wind howling and the trees whipping back and forth. To see the storm better, the hunter opened the tent flap. What he saw startled him. There wasn't a breath of air stirring. There wasn't a breath of air stirring the trees. The trees were standing perfectly still. Yet he could hear wind howling, and the more he listened, the more it sounded like they were calling Defago's name. Defago, Defago. I must be losing my mind, the hunter thought. Yeah, you gotta be losing your mind. Let's see how many pages is this. But but Defago had gotten out of his sleeping bag. He he huddled in a corner of the tent, his head buried in his arms. What is what is this all about? The hunter asked. It's nothing, Defago said. But the wind continued to call to him, and Defago became more tense and more reckless. Defago, Defago. Suddenly he jumped to his feet and he began to run from the tent. But the hunter grabbed him and wrestled him to the ground. You can't leave me out! You can't leave me out here! The hunter shouted. And then the wind called again, and Defago broke loose. The ran into the darkness. The hunter could hear him screaming as he went. Again and again he cried, "Oh, my fiery feet! My feet! My feet! My burning feet on fire!" Then his voice faded away and the wind died down. At daybreak, the hunter followed Defago's tracks in the snow. They went they went they went through the woods down toward the lake, then then on, then out onto the ice. But soon he noticed something strange. The steps Defago had taken got longer and longer. They were so no human being could have taken them. It was as if something had helped him to hurry away. The hunter followed the tracks out to the middle of the lake, but but they but there they disappeared. At first he thought that the Fago had fallen through the ice, but there wasn't any hole. Then he thought that something had pulled him off the ice into the sky, but that made no sense. As he stood wondering what happened, the wind pick, picked up again. Excuse me. Soon it was howling as it had the night before, and he heard Defago's voice. It was coming from up above, and again he heard Defago screaming, "My fiery feet! My burning feet!" But there was nothing to be seen. Now the hunter wanted to leave that place as fast oh wait, where we go? As fast as he could. He went back to camp and packed. Then he left some food for Defago and started out. Weeks later, he reached civilization. The following year, he went back to hunt in that area again. He went to the same trading post to look for a guide. The people there could not explain what happened to Defago that night, but they had not seen him since then. Maybe it was the Wendigo, one of them said, and he laughed. It's supposed to come with the wind. It drags you along at a great speed until your feet are burned away, and more of you than that. Then it carries you into the sky and it drops you. It's just a crazy story, but that's what some of the Indians say. Just a crazy story. Really. Sorry, but I'm gonna have to stop for a second, but just a crazy story, but the evidence that he been pointed to was that his feet were burning, and he heard Defago's name being called from the sky that night, and yeah, yeah, what the balls, seriously. But anyway, and a few days later, the hunter was at the trading post again, and an Indian came in and sat by the fire. He had a blanket wrapped around him, and he wore his hat so that you couldn't see his face. The hunter thought there was something familiar about him. He walked over and he asked, "Are you Defago?" The Indian didn't answer. Do you know anything about him?" No answer. He began to wonder if something was wrong, if the man needed help, but he couldn't see his face. "Are you all right?" he asked. No answer. To get a good look at him, he lifted the Indian's hat, and he screamed. There's nothing under the hat but a pile of ashes. Now that is the Wendigo from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. That was a good story. I very personally liked it, and yeah, it came from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This book was written in... Well, first off, I need to figure out where to find wherever the book had been written. But I think it was written in 1980. But you can probably like look in your school library or at your public library. You can probably find a few copies of this, and it's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice book, if you ask me. I've read them dozens of times, and yeah. So this was Creepypasta Monday. So yeah. I said I know I put on Twitter that I was gonna do the Ben Drown creepypasta, you know, Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask creepypasta, but yeah, I got the email from YouTube saying that Alvin Schwartz wanted me to do the story out of the book, so I'm like, I'm not really that popular, so something like this can actually boost me up or anything. But I just hope that nothing really bad happens to this video, and it like jacks up or something and won't upload, so. Now, yeah, I probably will be reading. You won't hear me read Ben Drowned, not anytime soon. But I will be reading it. I'll probably just take a few stories out of this, and go on throughout the entire series and read a few stories out of them books. So, yeah, that was the Wendigo. Like, favorite this video, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys later. Bye.